What's going on, duelists? It's your boy Nick, bringing you today on the channel an update to my Chimera Melffy deck profile for the post-Age of Overlord format. For those of you new to the channel, welcome. My name's Nick. We do Yu-Gi-Oh content mainly focused around rogue and casual decks alike. If that's the kind of Yu-Gi-Oh that you're interested in, then I highly encourage you to like this video and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any more of my uploads. And yeah, Age of Overlord has officially been released into the wild, and there was actually brand new cards to support the Chimera theme in the set, the first of which being this brand new fusion monster, Baphomet, the mythical king of phantom beasts. Amazing artwork on this card. And a couple of other indirect supports were also released for the set. So I thought it was a perfect time to update the deck list. I know the older Chimera Melffy profile that I did post Duelist Nexus received a lot of attention, and a lot of people thought it was pretty cool and they liked it. So I wanted to do an update for this particular deck for you guys today. And yeah, with the intro and everything out of the way, we're gonna dive headfirst into this amazing profile. This is a 40 card deck list. You gotta love it when you see a clean 40 card list, obviously. And you know how we do here on the channel, we always start with the monster lineup, of course. So we are leading things off here with a playset of Cornfield Codal. This is a wind level 4 illusion effect monster, and it has two really interesting effects. The first effect is one that activates in the hand. The second effect is one that you can activate from the field or graveyard. We'll go over the hand effect first. It states that you can discard this card for cost to add a monster that mentions Chimera Fusion from the deck to your hand, except a copy of itself. So Cornfield Codal can search you a starter, perhaps. Very good. You want to max out on this. Then it states when your opponent activates a card or effect that targets a card or cards you control, while you control Chimera, the flying mythical beast. Quick effect, you can banish this card from your field or graveyard to negate that effect, and if you do, destroy that card. So the Chimera archetype, although it's not an actual archetype, I use that word in air quotes because none of the, most of the cards actually don't have the word Chimera in the name, so they're not really Chimera cards, but they all work towards the same goal, which is, helping you get to the monster whose name becomes Chimera, the flying mythical beast on the field. It all makes sense once you see the rest of the cards, but Cornfield Codal is definitely a card you want to max out on a playset of, just because he does effectively get you into your starter, which we'll talk about up next. Another thing I want to discuss before moving on to the next card is that because Cornfield Codal is an illusion monster, illusion being the newest monster type introduced into this game, all the illusions share the same effect where if they battle a monster, neither monster can be destroyed by that battle. So that means that the illusion cannot be killed by battle, and any monster that they battle can also not be killed by battle, which is pretty interesting. It does make them a little bit annoying to out since your opponent can't kill them by battle. They have to get a little creative with card effect removal most likely. But outside of that, you definitely want to play a playset of Codal. Moving on to the next card in the lineup is a playset of Mirror Sword Knight. Now this is usually what you're summoning, what you're searching off of the Cornfield Codal, because he does mention Chimera Fusion in his text. He's a level 4 light illusion monster, 1900 attack, 300 defense. Same clause as Cornfield Codal. If this card battles a monster, neither can be destroyed by battle. However, he has a quick effect where you contribute this card for cost, and it's very cool that he can do that as cost and as a quick effect, because that means you can use this effect on either player's turn, and you can also dodge targeted interactions. Like if you summon this and they try to imperm this, you can immediately tribute itself to tag out, and then the imperm just fizzles because the target left, which is really nice. But you can quick effect tribute this card to special summon a monster from your deck that mentions Chimera Fusion, except a copy of Mirror Sword Knight. So he's pretty much an emergency teleport for any monster that mentions Chimera Fusion, which is obviously very powerful. And then when a monster your opponent controls activates its effect, and you control Chimera, the flying mythical beast, quick effect, you can banish this card from your field or the graveyard to negate that effect. So Mirror Sword Knight, not only is it like a starter for you, because you start your line off with Codal, search Sword Knight, normal Sword Knight, and then Sword Knight effect. Both Codal and Sword Knight kind of function like hand traps or disruptions from either the field or the graveyard by banishing themselves while you control Chimera, the flying mythical beast, which is really insane. Total stopping targeted interaction, and Sword Knight just being a generic monster negate for any monster that activates on the field, which is really, really powerful. So definitely you want to max out on a playset of both of those cards if you're playing the Chimera package. It's pretty much a given. Then to follow that up, we're on 3 copies of Gazelle, King of Mythical Claws. We were previously playing 2 copies of this card, but I decided to bump it up for 3 post Agov. And that's because the card is actually really strong. It's a level 4 Earth Beast, and upon normal or special, you can add a level 5 Fiend monster or a Chimera Fusion from deck to hand. So it's effectively a searcher for 2 of the most important cards in the theme, in my opinion. Then, if this card is used as sent to the graveyard as a material for a fusion summon, you can add an illusion monster from deck to hand. So Gazelle not only searches you Chimera Fusion or a level 5 Fiend, which we'll talk about shortly, but when he's sent to the graveyard as material for a fusion summon, he also searches you any illusion monster from deck to hand. So this card is really, really crucial in my opinion, and I think playing 3 copies of it just makes sense. So obviously you max out on Gazelle. Up next is going to be a playset, or I'm sorry, not a playset, 2 copies of Big Winged Baphomet. We were previously playing 3 copies in my older build, but I recently cut it down to 2 copies after doing a lot of testing and deck and theory crafting with the deck. I felt that playing 3 Big Winged, while it was cool because it worked in tandem really well with the spell card that we main deck, I realized that after doing a lot of testing, sometimes opening duplicates of Baphomet was just bad. So in order to mitigate that, I decided to cut it down from a 3 of to a 2 of. But Baphomet is a level 5 Fiend, which means it is searchable off the Gazelle effect, but also it mentions Chimera Fusion in the text. So you can search it off Codal or special summon it from deck off the Sword Knight, which is really great. And it reads as follows. If this card is normal or special summoned, you can add a level 4 beast and or 1 Chimera Fusion from the deck to your hand. Also, you cannot special summon monsters from the extra deck for the rest of the turn except fusion monsters. So Baphomet allows you to search for Chimera Fusion and a level 4 beast together. So it's a search for 2, which is really insane, with no cost either. That's pretty rare to see in Yu-Gi-Oh! In addition to that, if this card is sent to the graveyard as material for a fusion summon, you can target an illusion monster in your graveyard and special summon it. So both Baphomet and Gazelle are just very cost efficient when it comes to fusion summoning, because not only do they have really impactful effects when they're placed on the field, but also when they're used as material for a fusion, they also give you even more added benefit in the form of a reborn and a search, which is just really crazy. Allows you to make the deck, very hyper consistent, and also gives you that really nice grind game, and kind of makes it so that your fusion summon isn't so neggy, like fusion summoning usually is. It's very, very insane how well these cards all work together. And that's pretty much the, OG, you could say, Chimera package. But now it's time to introduce you to some of the new stuff. We have here a copy of Master Tao the Chanter. Now this is a brand new illusion monster fresh out of Age of Overlord. It's a level 3 Earth illusion monster with 1200 attack and 900 defense. And while this card isn't directly related to the Chimera support because it's not a monster that mentions Chimera Fusion in the text, it is, however, an illusion monster, and since we can generically search illusion monsters and generically special them from the graveyard through cards like Gazelle and cards like Big Wing Baphomet, I thought that including this card as a one-of just made perfect sense. So, because it's an illusion, it has your typical illusion effect where if this card battles, neither monster can be destroyed with that battle. However, in addition to that, if this card is sent to the graveyard, doesn't matter how it gets there, whether it's from field, hand, deck, sent as fusion material, detached from an Xyz as material, doesn't matter. As long as it's sent to the graveyard, you can target an illusion monster in your grave except himself and special summon it in defense position. Also, you cannot special summon monsters from the graveyard for the rest of this turn except illusion monsters. Now that restriction actually doesn't hinder this deck all that much because you're not really special summoning many things from the graveyard anyway, outside of with, Baphomet's effect, which he specials an illusion anyway, so it's not like you're really summoning anything else out of the graveyard. So that lock that Master Tao places you under for the rest of the turn doesn't really bother us. But the fact that it's just an illusion monster that when sent to grave by any means allows you to special summon an illusion is really nice, especially when you consider that you can recover cards like Mirror Sword Knight back to your side of the field to be able to use this quick effect again to jumpstart your plays for a following turn. Is just really, really crucial. So 1 copy of Master Tao the Chanter is a very nice addition to the Illusion card pool. We're very happy to have him on board. Up next, While it did come out in Duelist Nexus, we chose not to play it before until now. We have a copy of Nightmare Magician. This is a dark level 7 illusion effect monster with 2500 attack, 2000 defense, and it reads as follows. Again, it has the typical illusion clause where if the card battles a monster, neither can be destroyed by that battle. In addition to that, though, at the end of the damage step, if this card battled an opponent's monster, you can take control of that opponent's monster. That is a non-target steal, and it's permanent. Not only that, you can do whatever you want with the card that you stole. You can attack with it, you can use its effects as if it were your own. That's actually kind of insane, I'm not going to lie. Then, if that wasn't crazy enough, it says, once per turn at the start of the damage step, if another monster attacks, you can destroy one card on the field. So again, non-target destruction and a non-target steal. Two really insane effects on a relatively easy card to put on the board. Before, not so much, but now because you have cards like Tau, who are able to just recover illusion monsters from the graveyard at no cost, and in tandem with Baphomet as well, you have the ability to put illusion monsters to the field very, very easily. Plus, not to mention the new fusion monster they got allows you on summon to Foolish Burial a beast, fiend, or illusion. So you can dump these cards straight out of the deck. In addition to that, that new fusion also allows you to fuse using illusions as part of the material, which is something that we couldn't do before, and that's why some of the illusions were kind of clunky to draw, because you actually couldn't use them as material to make anything until now. But now that we do have a new fusion that can use illusions as material, cards like a Nightmare Magician and Tau become all that much better, because now you're able to actually cycle through them easier, and they're not as bricky as they were, or at least Nightmare Magician's not as bricky as he was prior to the release of Agov. But you play this card as a one-of, it's just a really cool illusion monster, two really great effects, and honestly it's been working out really well in testing as a one-of, so I'm very happy to have that card on board. So that's going to wrap up the, quote-unquote Chimera part of the deck. Now it's time to dive into the Melffy part. And this is a full-fledged Melffy deck. I know a lot of people use the term Melffy loosely and all they're playing is like a caddy and a penny. This is not that kind of deck. We are definitely playing the Melffys. We have 2 copies of Melffy Wally, 1 copy of Puppy, 1 copy of Caddy, 1 copy of Fenny, 1 copy of Pony, and 1 copy of Penny to round out our Melffy monster lineup. Now, all the Melffys, with the exception of Penny, basically have the similar effects in the sense that during your end phase, each one of them can special summon themselves from your hand. Pretty much for free. That's at no cost to you, obviously. That is a hard once per turn, though, which is why we're pretty much playing just one-ofs of all of them. Plus, not to mention, Wally can grab you 2 Melffys with different names from deck, so you really don't need to play, max out on multiples. So during your end phase, they can special themselves from hand. Again, this is all the Melffys with the exception of Penny. In addition to that, it states if your opponent normal or special summons a monster, except during the damage step, or if your opponent's monster targets, any of the Melffys for an attack, you can return this card to the hand, and if you do, each Melffy at that point has its own unique effect. So in Wally's case, when he returns to hand under that condition, you can special summon 2 Melffys from your deck with different names, which is really insane. It's almost like a Rescue Cat-like effect, which is crazy. Puppy can special summon any level 2 or lower beast from your deck. Note that he does not negate that card's effects. Same thing with Wally. The Melffys you summon off Wally are not negated either. And then in Puppy's case, you can summon any level 2 or lower beast from your deck, which is awesome. Caddy, upon returning to hand, allows you to add any beast monster from the deck to your hand. So it's just a generic beast search, which is crazy. You can use Caddy to grab a card like Gazelle for follow-up for next turn, which is really nice. Fenny allows you to special summon any beast monster from the hand. No restrictions, as long as the beast monster in question can be special summoned. Fenny can summon it. And then Pony can target a level 2 or lower beast in your graveyard, and then add it back to your hand. Let me see. Actually, to be honest, I don't even think he targets. Yeah, I realized Pony doesn't even target. You just add a level 2 or lower beast monster from grave to hand. So that's even better. Like if the opponent has DD Crow, because you're not targeting anything specific, they can't respond to DD Crow and make this card fizzle. So it's a non-target add of any level 2 or lower beast from grave. So that's what all of these Melffys do, which is really crazy. They just put a lot of pressure on the opponent, and they're very difficult to play around because they all trigger whenever the opponent normal or special summons, which obviously the opponent's going to obviously do. So it makes all the Melffys very, difficult to interact with in that sense. Then we have Penny. Penny is the unique one out of the bunch. He's also the only one that's not an earth. He's a water, and he's also a tuner. But Penny, unlike the other Melffys, his effect is totally different. He reads as follows. If a face-up beast monster you control was returned to the hand this turn, except Melffy Penny, quick effect, you can special this card from your hand, then immediately after this effect resolves, synchro summon one synchro monster using only this card you control and Melffy monsters in your hand as material. So this card, as long as any Melffy returned to your hand during the turn, you can quick effect, special summon the Penny, and then immediately synchro summon using Penny and any Melffys in hand as material during the opponent's turn. So Penny is effectively like a Hop Your Squadron, but on crack, which is really hilarious. Then he has another effect where during your end phase, if this card is in your graveyard, you can target a Beast Xyz monster you control and attach this card to it as material. So all the other Melffys help give you field presence and help, grind with your opponent, while Penny is here as a ability to quick sync on the opponent's turn, which means he can help you make some pretty interesting stuff. So that's it for the Melffy package of the deck. And the reason why I'm playing Melffy with the Chimera cards is because there's a lot of synergy there with, the beast overlap that the Chimera cards, have synergy with, which you'll see once we go over the fusions. And because all the Melffys, they don't require the normal summon because they're all special themselves at end phase anyway. So you can lead with like your Chimera lines and then go down your Chimera combo. And at the end of it, special something like a puppy or a Wally or Caddy from your hand and have even more disruption that your opponent has to deal with on their turn, in addition to all of your Chimera fusion plays, which is just really, really nice. So now moving on to the generic monsters that we play, the non-archetypal, stuff, different tech choices. We're on 2 copies of Calantosa. This card, you usually special summon it off of the puppy from deck or off the Fenny from your hand. And if this card is special summoned by the effect of a beast monster, you can target a card in the field and destroy it as a trigger effect. Note that that effect is not once per turn either, so you can definitely abuse Calantosa in this deck like no other. It's very hilarious just to have spot removal like that is very, very useful. We do play 1 copy of Valeraphon, the mystical beast of the forest. We don't really play this card so much for the effect it has. We mainly play it because it is a level 2 Earth Beast tuner, which matters for a particular card we are playing in the extra deck now. Then we play 1 copy of Undaunted Bumpkin Beast. This card is really nice because it is just another generic level 2 beast that if your opponent special summons 3 or more monsters during their main phase, you can special this card from your hand or the graveyard for free. And it does not banish itself when it leaves the field after doing that. So that means this card can theoretically keep summoning itself from the graveyard every single time your opponent starts to overcommit and just keeps a free body on your board to help, for follow-up or just help keep pressure on your opponent, which is something that I really value. So he still makes the cut from the previous list. We also are still playing 1 copy of Doomstar Olka. This is a new card that came out of Duelist Nexus. It's a level 4 beast monster, which means you can search it off of the Big Wing Baphomet if you don't want to grab the Gazelle. But this card is a really unique effect where if exactly 1 monster you control and no other monsters leaves the field by your opponent's card effect, you can banish this card from your hand or graveyard, and then if that monster is in your grave, or if it's banished face up, you can special summon it. Otherwise, you special summon this monster, and then if this card is special summoned, you can make it gain 1500 attack until the end of the next turn. So it becomes a 3k beater out of nowhere if you special it off of something like a Fenny, which is really crazy. Plus the fact that he's able to revive any monster that your opponent removes is also really fun as well. Then for hand traps, we're main decking a playset of Ghostbelle and Haunted Mansion. I think post-Agov format, Ghostbelle has a lot more staying power because she interacts with a lot more cards. I'm thinking, with the Diabellstar package, there's definitely a lot of stuff there. You can Ghostbelle, you can Ghostbelle the Wanted, Seeker of Sinful Spoils, because that can attempt to add the Diabell from the deck or the graveyard. Even if they're not adding the Diabell from grave, you can still Ghostbelle it because it gives them the option to add it from grave. Which is nice. There's a lot of other interactions that Belle works really well against, and I think it fits for this upcoming format we're about to be heading into. Plus, not to mention, she is a Earth level 3 tuner, which again matters for things that we're playing in our extra deck. Then to round out the last monster is just 1 copy of Alpha. Alpha actually got a confirmed reprint in the Rarity Collection, of which the reveals just went up earlier today. for the content creators that are sponsored by Konami. That set is absolutely insane. I can't believe the amount of gas that set is holding. It's just nuts. But we main deck one copy of Alpha simply because we can search it off Caddy and give us, a board breaker potentially for the crackback, which is really nice. So that rounds out the monster lineup. We are playing a pretty hefty amount of monsters in this list, and that'll make sense when we get to the extra deck. We're on a ratio of 29 monsters, if I'm not mistaken. And then the rest of the cards in our list, our 40 card list, are spells, of course. So now that we're done with the monsters, let's talk about the spells. We are playing a playset of Obedience School. This card, I think, doesn't get appreciated enough. It's literally emergency teleport, but for 3 monsters from your deck. Granted, yes, the monsters are negated, but the only stipulation is that you're locked into beasts for the rest of the turn. That is not a problem for this deck, let me tell you. The fact that you just get to E-Tele 3 beast monsters from your deck for free, because there is no cost, is absolutely insane, and the card's not even once per turn. So if your opponent ashes this, and you have another copy, punish them. Activate another one, and just special 3 beasts from deck for free. I can't begin to tell you how nuts this card is. And the fact that the only restriction is that you're beast locked, it's almost laughable, because that restriction is nothing to this deck. Moving on, we are on a playset of Chimera Fusion. This is the star of the show, so to speak, or what, ties the Chimera package together. What every card mentions, this is it. It is a quick play fusion spell that allows you to, during the main phase, fusion summon a fusion monster from your extra deck, using monsters from your hand or field as material, including a beast or fiend monster. Then it says, during your main phase, if this card is in your grave, and you have Chimera, the flying mythical beast, on your field or in your graveyard, you can activate one of these effects. You can either add this card from grave to hand, or you can banish it, and if you do, special both a Gazelle and a Baphomet from deck or graveyard. But that's referring to the original Gazelle and Baphomet, not the new updated retrains. So I'm going to be honest, that second effect isn't that great. It's not worth playing the bricks for. So what you mainly use this card for is obviously to fuse. Note that it's not once per turn to fuse, so you can use multiple copies of it, or the same copy in the same turn if you can loop it back. But you mainly use it for the second effect, where it can add itself from the grave back to your hand to constantly keep giving you a fusion spell that just never runs out of fodder, because it'll always add itself back, which is really crazy. So we max out on a playset of Chimera Fusion in this deck, very crucial to how the deck plays. Then we main deck one copy of Melffy Hide and Seek. Continuous spell states that the first time each beast monster you control would be destroyed by a card effect each turn, it is not destroyed. So it just blanket protects all beasts once per turn from destruction every single turn. And it states the second effect is you can target 3 beast monsters in your grave with different names, shuffle them into the deck, and then draw 1 card. So it also gives you recursion, which is really nuts. 1 copy is more than enough, however. We follow that up with 2 copies of Triple Tactics Talent. Again, a really great card to be playing this format. There's a lot of decks that are going to be interacting on your turn, plus not to mention the copious amounts of hand traps that most people are playing, so Talent is usually almost always going to be live. Then we do main deck 1 copy of Super Poly. Again, we just play the 1 because all we have is the 1 target in the extra, but 1 copy of Poly is more than enough with how consistent this deck is and how much we burn through our resources. We are usually able to see this card very, very quickly when we need to. So Super Poly as a 1 of is perfectly fine. And then to round out the last card on the 40 card deck list is 1 Called by the Grave, because again, we do want to try and play through hand traps as much as we can. So that wraps up the main deck post AGOV. Again, an even 40 card list. Now let's jump into the extra deck, of which we are playing 1 copy of Garua, Wings of Resonant Life, as our Super Poly target of choice. This card is really nice, being able to fuse off 2 monsters with the same type and attribute, but different names. It's not that hard to accomplish this format. A lot of decks and boards have monsters that are the same type and attribute, but have different names. So it's, like I said, this is our, 1 of Poly target for Super Poly, and it works out great. And then when it sent to the graveyard, even gets you a draw on top of that, which is really nice. We are playing the 2 copies of Chimera, the King of Phantom Beasts. This was the fusion that came out of Duelist Nexus. It's a level 6 Wind Beast fusion effect monster, requiring a Beast monster and a Fiend monster as fusion material. And it states this card's name becomes Chimera, the Flying Mythical Beast, while it's on the field or in the graveyard. And that is the name that both Kodal and Mirror Sword Knight look for specifically. They want you to control a monster whose name is Chimera, the Flying Mythical Beast. This card's name becomes that name, so as long as you have this on board or in your graveyard, you effectively have a copy of Chimera, the Flying Mythical Beast in play, which is really nice. When this card is fusion summoned, you can activate this effect during the end phase, you can send a random card from your opponent's hand to the graveyard. Now that doesn't seem that impactful, it's just a random hand rip, but let me tell you, once you get this deck, like, the ball rolling, that hand rip does come up more than you often think. In addition to that, you can banish this card from your graveyard during your opponent's turn as a quick effect, to then target any beast, fiend, or illusion monster in grave and special summon it. So 2 copies of Chimera, the King of Phantom Beasts, is perfectly fine with the Chimera ratio. Now, like I was talking about earlier, brand new from Agov is the brand new Baphomet, the mythical King of Phantom Beasts, another level 6 Wind Fusion. However, this card is a fiend monster, and it requires 2 monsters with different types, being Beast, Fiend, or Illusion, which means now that you confuse with Chimera Fusion with illusions that are in your hand, something you couldn't do with this card because he cannot use illusions as fusion material. So when this card is fusion summoned, he lets you send from your deck to the graveyard any Beast, Fiend, or Illusion. And then, similar to the Chimera, the King of Phantom Beasts, he has a quick effect during the opponent's turn. You can banish it from the graveyard to then target any banished Beast, Fiend, or Illusion monster and special summon it. Also, while this card's on the field or in the graveyard, his name becomes Chimera, the Flying Mythical Beast, just like the Chimera, the King of Phantom Beasts does. So he serves as another name for the deck, which is very, very important. One of is perfectly fine ratio-wise. I wouldn't recommend playing 2. I think 1 is more than enough for what you need it for. If you have to burn through more than 1, then you're probably losing that game anyway in the grand scheme. But up next is the Chimera, the Illusion Beast. He requires Chimera, the Flying Mythical Beast, plus 1+ Illusion monster. So he can use, at minimum, 1 illusion, or any number of illusions you want as material. This card's name also becomes Chimera, the Flying Mythical Beast, while on the field or in the graveyard. He can attack a number of times each battle phase, or he can attack monsters, a number of times each battle phase, up to the number of materials used for its summon. So if you use 2 materials, he can attack monsters twice. If you use 3 or more, he can attack, that many times. So a really insane card for OTK plays. He's 3100 attack. Because he's an illusion, he has the typical illusion clause where if this card battles, neither monster can be killed by that battle. And you're probably wondering, well, what the heck's the point? The reason is that because at the end of the damage step, if this card battled an opponent's monster, you can change that opponent's monster's attack to 0, also negate its effects. Those are 2 permanent changes. The attack reduction is permanent, and the effect negation is also permanent, which is really, really crucial. So this card is very, very good as a 1-of in the deck. Then we play 2 copies of Guardian Chimera. This is theoretically the boss monster for the theme. Very insane card, just requiring 3 monsters with different names as material. And this is why we have such a hefty monster lineup in the deck list, because you always want to make sure you have monsters or material to use to be able to fuse into Guardian Chimera on your turn or the opponent's with Chimera Fusion, since it is a quick play. But Guardian Chimera is obviously really, really insane in this deck, a very powerful card in my opinion. So that rounds out the fusions. Up next is the synchros, of which we play 1 Chimera Melffys. Upon synchro summon, he can target a monster on the field and return it to the hand, so very, very interesting removal there. We now play 1 copy of Naturia Beast, something that we weren't previously playing, but we can definitely make now with the help of the new illusion, the Tau the Chanter, being a level 3 Earth. That's why we're playing the Valeraphon in the main deck now, because it's a level 2 Earth Tuner, and those 2 cards combined can make Naturia Beast. Also, the Ghost Bell plus any Melffy can also make Nat Beast as well. Nat Beast just hoses any strategy that relies on spells. It's just crazy. Then, as another tech choice, with the help of Melffy Penny, because he allows us to synchro into any synchro monster, we are playing 1 copy of Infernity Doom Archfiend. Generally, we're going into this on the opponent's turn with Penny, but it's generic as far as the materials go. And it's once per turn, you can target a face-up card on the field, negate its effects until the end of the turn. Then, if you have no cards in hand, you can also destroy it. You're usually going to have cards in hand with the way this deck functions, so at minimum this card is just a negate, but that's fine. The reason why we play it is because it's a Fiend monster, and there are some fusions we do play that require Fiends, so since we're only main decking 2 Fiends in the form of the Big Wing Baphomet, we at least have a Fiend in the extra deck that we can go into relatively easily that can give us that Fiend, typing on field in case we need it for a fusion play. But also, it just, as an added benefit, it's also a negate on top of that, which is really nice. So we play it as a tech choice, and so far it's been working out. Then we play 1 copy of Melffy of the Forest, followed by 1 copy of Joyous Melffys to round out our Xyz package. And then going off to round out the extra deck is just some generic Link monsters we can play. We have one Cross Sheep, one Tri-Brigade Farragut, the Barren Blossom, followed by one copy of Tri-Brigade Shurag, the Ominous Omen, for some, much needed non-target, non-destruction removal. So that's going to round out the extra deck. Before we wrap things up here, let's talk about the side. And again, the side deck is always up to personal preference, so, build it however you see fit. For the purposes of my deck specifically, I'm choosing to side a playset of Droll and Lockbird. I am choosing to side a playset of Kamungus, the Sticky String Kaiju. I'm also siding the other two copies of Alpha. We main deck one, side the other two. Just for when you're going second, you want to be able to break apart boards. Sometimes a lot of these board states now that decks are ending on are very, very insane, and you just need something like a Kaiju just to deal with it. We also side a playset of Spellbound. I've been noticing an uptick in playability with this card lately, and it actually works out a lot better than people give it credit for. It is really, really cool being able to make all face-up monsters your opponent controls. Currently unable to be used as material for any type of summon or be tributed, which is just really nuts. We also side one copy of Duster, and then to round out the side, for those times when we are going first, we do have a playset of Lost Wind in the side deck. So that's going to wrap up this update to Melffy Chimera post Age of Overlord. Let me know what you guys think of the profile down below. Like the video as well, subscribe if you haven't already, and stay tuned for more really cool and unique content coming your way. If this video gets to 30 plus likes, I will be bringing you guys a combos and test hands. And if you guys can get it to, let's say, 50 likes, I will also bring you guys a live duel video showcasing this deck in action. Possibly even against my recently updated Spriggan's Horus deck list. So if you guys are excited to see that, then like I said, make sure you like the video and comment down below and let me know, what you guys want to see. But with that being said, this is Nick, hitting that end phase. Peace.